Hello! Woo, 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 woo.
I don't know why I started waving my arms like they could see me.
I started being like, woo, 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 woo. I don't know why. Hey, welcome to number 114 of the Big Money Stylist podcast. Now, talk about consistent.
Whew.
You know what? How do you stay good at hair? You be consistent at it. How do you stay good at teaching? You stay consistent at it. How do you be good at speaking in front of a camera? You stay consistent at it. How do you get good at communication? You stay consistent at it.
100%. Communication, not communication. I got really off track on this second. Well, let's just address the elephant in the room.
All right.
Coronavirus. Let's just talk about it.
So like yesterday, I'm like one of those people that's like, fear will do more than the coronavirus. So like everybody needs to chill the fuck out. But then I'm like, well, if everybody's fear-based and buying toilet paper and buying everything, then I'm like, well, then I have to buy into the fear because I need toilet paper too.
Do you know people are selling bags of toilet paper for $30 on eBay? It blows my mind that someone could take something that people are legitimately scared and try to profit off of it. There was a company that started they were charging, I think, like a couple bucks for face masks, and they started charging like $15, $20, and they were fined millions of dollars by the government for doing that, for price gouging during an epidemic.
Yeah, that's bad.
It's fucking crazy.
Well, it was so crazy because I immediately thought about my baby, and I'm like, I didn't even think about toilet paper. I actually go to Costco a lot, and I'm like a weirdo already about toilet paper, so every room in my house has like way too much in every drawer that it's like weird.
Really? Cool. So if I run out, I'm coming to your house.
Like literally, you'll like go into random closets and you're like, why is there a lot of because I forget I buy it, and so then I'll be like, oh, I need more paper towels and toilet paper. So weirdly, I have it strangely stocked up anyways. So anyways, the one thing I was like, oh my God, she does soy formula. So it's like a special kind of formula. And I was like, shit, I know CVS sells it. I drive to CVS last night at like 8 o'clock at night. I kid you not, this kid, I felt like I was in a haunted movie. This kid jumps out in front of my car and he's like, ah! And then he was going into CVS, and then he turned around and forgot it and literally jumped out in front of my car. And I was like, what the hell is going on? People are like darting out of stores. And I was like,
I was in the grocery store this morning. I went at 6 a.m. just for the fact of I wanted avocados because I ran out and my groceries won't come until I have my groceries delivered. They don't come until later today. And I was like, fuck it. Like, I'll just go walk around not the clothing aisle, like the cleaning aisle, just to see if there's anything, which I knew there wouldn't be. Crazy enough, there were 4 of those stacks of Clorox wipes. And I'm like, cool. And they were on the floor. Like, they're not even putting shit on shelves anymore. It's insane. So I'm bending down. All I have is a basket. I don't even have a cart. And as I'm bending over just to rip open the plastic more to grab one, a lady starts running down the aisle, stops no farther than 2 feet from me, and looks at me with crazy eyes. And I'm like, what the fuck?
She's like, are you going to take all those? You're like, but then even if you weren't going to, you're like, I have to. I should.
And it was incredible. She literally stood there staring at me. At least she was polite enough to not dart on top of the Clorox wipes. And I look at her, I go, I'm only taking one. I'm going to leave some for everybody else. And she's like, yeah, I'll take 2. I'm like, wait, I think you're missing my point. No, okay, you go, girl. She grabbed 2 and then ran. I'm like, what? And I'm just bebopping along. I'm like, I'm getting perishables.
I think what's actually... Fun fact about me too. I mean, I probably need more groceries. I have a shit ton of sanitizer because after I had my baby, I went and got giant ones and put them in every room.
Ooh,
so sanitizer and toilet paper, my house is the place to be. But but then I was like, I don't have a ton of food.
That's my problem because I order food twice a week because I don't.
Yeah, I like it fresh, and I like to order based on what I want to make that night.
Yes, and I order perishables. I don't have a shit ton of fucking canned food.
I have a year's worth of food storage too.
Do you really?
Yeah. I'm pretty prepared.
Why do you have... So basically, if I get hungry
or
have to pee, I'm coming to your house.
I had that before everybody went crazy. I don't know, having kids, we invested in some company and we bought food storage and they deliver to your house and store it for you and everything. It's like dried food storage.
Oh, I have the version of that.
It's not yummy, but...
Oh, I have an earthquake preparedness kit basically because when those earthquakes hit, I got so scared. Scared because I'd never experienced that in my life. So I have an entire kit. Same. It has food and perishables and all this crazy shit. Yeah. But you know what? Let's even stay on the topic of fear though, because what's blowing my mind is how people are responding to this fear. And I definitely, I don't want to hear any fucking emails being like, you guys don't understand. I do understand. I understand the coronavirus is actually very dangerous for elderly or anyone with a pre-existing condition or very young kids. I do actually understand that. But now I feel like they're taking it to an extreme where they're hoarding toilet paper. How about this? A Walmart, the town over from where my parents live, and my parents don't live in some shoddy, weird fucking neighborhood. A guy pulled out a gun and started shooting to the ceiling of Walmart over toilet paper. Yes, he got arrested. No one was hurt, so we can all laugh at this. But over fucking
weird.
Toilet paper?
I have to say Walmart in general draws a different crowd.
I'm going to say also yes.
Yes.
But the fact that that's even a thing, it just shows you how people respond to fear. And truly, if everyone would just calm the fuck down and stop thinking they had to hoard everything, like this is not actually an apocalypse.
That's actually causing us more trauma than the actual...
The virus itself.
Yeah. And I think I worry not about the virus, but about like the economy. And I think that people are freaking out because, you know, the NBA canceled their season. There's all these big things. But I think my theory is that they're just trying to get it to like contain itself for like a month, 2 weeks, like whatever, and then kind of go back to our regular. So I think people are like freaking like, how long is this going to go long? But they're making it worse with the fear.
Absolutely. And I actually saw a graph that said the reason that they're doing this and like people from Europe aren't allowed to come to America, Major League Baseball, the NBA, both Disneyland and Disney World are shut down. Like some airports are shutting down as well, is imagine like a chart and a one big bump and then it tapers off real low at the end. Yeah. That's what's happening right now, where there's a huge peak and it's overwhelming hospitals and doctors and nurses and they can't catch up. But if everyone just stays put, then it doesn't peak so high. Yeah. It's not a mountain. It's just like a little bit of a hill and it still tapers off, but so many people aren't in like detrimental danger at that point.
Just slows it down.
Yes. But even, you know, Fear is such a fascinating thing because I even see it in our students though. Like so many of them, they're like, oh, but I want this. I want to be able to do that. I want to do that. But what if this happens?
Yeah.
And that's where people are responding from, even with the coronavirus. Well, what if I get it?
Steps ahead. And you're like, you
don't have it.
Yeah.
I'm going to need you to calm down. Yeah. Some people, we even had a client at DKW cancel. She has an autoimmune disease. So she was like, guys, I can't come. And we're like, we totally understand. We didn't charge or anything. Like, we're like, hey, we get it. We'll put you on our books in a few weeks.
Right.
Someone like that being like, hey, I'm going to have extra stuff delivered because I really shouldn't be leaving. I understand.
Right.
But a healthy 25-year-old, I'm like, why are you hoarding toilet paper and stuff? Because it's literally that what if.
Yeah. And I think there's more risk like driving down the road every day and there's more car accidents that happen than getting the coronavirus. But I just think I'm almost like, I don't even want to post anything about it because I feel like it just keeps feeding into the media. And then even though we're kind of talking more positive about it, it's still the more awareness and the more attention, the more people are like, and they get into that.
And see, for me, I feel like awareness is a really good thing. And I think whether it's business or something like health, you do have to be aware of outcomes, whether positive or negative.
Right.
I think to bury our head in the sand and say like, just not to like throw you under the bus, be like, don't talk about it, it's fine. Right. Almost makes people be like, but why aren't you talking about it? Are we not supposed to talk about it? What's wrong? Are you trying to hide something? It's like, hey, I have nothing to hide. And that's why students are like, Ani, are we still doing events? And I'm like, guys, yes, we're still doing events. We'll have extra Germex. Please wash your hands. I won't make you guys hug. Like, don't worry. And I think it needs rational minds have to speak a little bit louder to be like, can we please fucking calm down?
Right.
Like, come on.
My mom flew in this weekend and she was like, my sister was like texting me and calling me and freaking out. She's like, Mom should not come because my mom is 67 years old and she's had bronchitis for a while. So she is older and she is sick. And she's like, and I was like, I have to be honest. I think she'll be fine. John Wayne Airport is super slow. And I said, but I text my mom. I'm like, if you don't want to go, like you should not come. She's like, I feel fine about it. She said she got on the plane. There was like nobody on the plane.
Yep.
She brought her little Clorox wipes and she's like, she's like, I feel fine about it, but I can imagine if you're in like a busier place and that kind of thing and you're elderly and to put yourself in that situation can be kind of scary and it's important to take precautions. And even as we're stepping into one of our bigger events, I feel like it's a far enough out where I'm like, you guys, as of right now, it's still happening.
Yeah,
like,
we're 2 months out. Let it be known. We still got a hot minute.
Yeah, 2 months out. Think how much things just changed in the last week with everything being canceled and people can't like panicking. I'm like, we have 2 solid months. Obviously, if we're in this place where it is dangerous or whatever it is, obviously we would wait till that point and cancel. But as of right now, like I feel good about it. I'm like, We have less than 250 people, which California just said something. If you have over 250, like
yeah, we have less than 250 people coming. That's actually one of our smaller events that we're doing, and we are still taking extra precautions.
Right.
But I think it's like I keep saying, it's that what if factor of like, but what if I get coronavirus? Then what if I'm quarantined for 14 days? Then what if it's like, I need you to calm down. Right. And it's the same with business. Like we even tell our artists, like one of the girls just finished writing we have a private network for all of our academy students. And she just finished writing. She's like, guys, I don't know what to do. I have 27 NBR clients. I'm taking them on these 2 days. Then on these 2 days, I take cut and color, but I have to come in on Saturday to get in my NBR clients. I don't know what to do. Look, listen to this. I have an assistant that works with me 2 days a week. I have her on my cut and color days, but I don't have an assistant on my NBR days. I'm like, breaks, hold up. I'm sorry. What? And
why
for
does
her,
she not have one on her? That's like the busiest days.
I don't know. I literally do not know. And I told her, but for her, I'm like, you need to start upping your prices. You need to start dropping clients. And it's always like, but then what if? And I'm like, okay, so you're telling me you want to keep a client that's paying you $200 maybe, but you don't want to make room for a client that'll pay you $2,000.
Because there's this fear of like, I'll never get a new client that'll want to pay me $2,500 or whatever it is.
Or what if it doesn't work? But then what if I have a gap in my book? Well, what if space in your book is actually a good thing?
I think that people assume like the worst case scenario. But for me, like when I put myself in a situation where like, say, for example, one year I was like, you know what? When I first moved to California, actually, I was taking colors. I wasn't taking cuts by themselves, but I was taking colors and I was taking extensions. And then I got to this place where I was like, I don't really want to take colors anymore. And I was like, but I had quite a few colors at the time. And I was like, well, it kind of did the numbers. And I went from charging like I think it was like $175 for a color to $375, like overnight. Like
cool.
I almost like doubled my price. And I just was like, I have to make it work with the numbers and that kind of thing. And so interestingly enough, I was like, kind of like, ooh, I'm going to lose clients. But then I had to remind myself, I kind of want to lose clients to make room for those other clients. Funny story. I doubled my prices. I lost like one client. And I was like,
mind-blowing, isn't it?
I was like, shit. And then I was like,
gone higher.
Yeah. And so, yeah, I was. But for me, it was kind of like a wake-up call. Like, well, then why are you still taking colors?
Yes.
And so then I went through that phase where like I had a lot of people that were still paying me a lot for the colors, and then I got to the point where I was just like, hey, sorry, I'm no longer. And it was scary because then they started to fall off my books, right? Because they didn't want extensions. They were just like, no. A lot of them had like shorter haircuts, and they were like, no. And they started to kind of slowly fall off my books. But because I had spaces, I'd look at my books and I'd be like, okay. It wasn't like I didn't have self-doubt. I knew how to market. And if you have that understanding of knowing how to market, it's such a powerful tool because you're not like scared of like open spaces on your books. You're like, all right, it's time to like do my daily floor. It's time to market. It's time to do all that to get more people on my books. And it actually pushes me a little bit to like market, you know what I mean? So
well, and I love how you said that. A lot of people are worst case scenario because it's true. So many people think that way. Like, what's the worst thing that could happen? And then I feel like you have the opposite end of the people that they're like, everything's fine. Like their arm limb is falling off and they're slowly dying. And they're like, but it's fine. I love having 16 clients a day. What do you mean? I'm like, wait. And I feel like I fall somewhere in the middle. I lean more towards optimist. I'm not a pessimist in any way, shape, or form, but I consider myself a realist. When I look at a situation, like even when you and I go back and forth, we're like, oh, you're like, okay, let's do this. And I'm like, that's a great idea. But for that to pull off, we have to do da-da-da-da-da-da. This won't work because of that. This will work because of that. But I still love the idea, but it has to be like jigged and adjusted.
Right.
And it's never me trying to come from a place of like, no, that's dumb or it won't work. It's like, okay, realistically for this to happen, what does it look like? And that's been a mindset for me, even inside of my business where I worked in a salon and I was renting a booth chair, renting a station. And then I was like, well, I'm going to go to my suite. And I'm like, all right, let's look at this. Realistically, what could happen? I'm like, this could be too fucking much and I 100% could fail. But at the same time, I know myself, so let's look at the bright side. I start and I start naming off, working for myself, making my own time, taking my own clients, charging whatever I want, like really owning my business.
If you don't actually look at the big pictures and the steps, I like that you said that, like, I had to look at the steps in between. I think that people don't actually look at the steps in between. So they're like, if I want to go here, it's not doable. I can't do it. And you're like, well, maybe, but what would I have to do to get my own suite, or what would I have to do?
Yes.
And you just start playing out scenarios, and the next thing you know, you're like looking at different suites, or you're looking at different this, and then all of a sudden it doesn't seem as overwhelming or as scary.
Well, even like, for example, Danielle and I, we were just sitting down at the salon filming for the Academy the other day, and we were like, hey, let's have NBR and BMS awards for the first time ever inside of our academy. Like, we're going to do a whole big thing for them. We're going to do like best long transformation, best short transformation, the best color blend. We're going to be looking at their numbers and like the biggest changes in business. Like, we're so excited to really reward those who are putting in the hard work and getting past all the fear that they have.
Right.
And Danielle, it was so funny because we're 2 months out from our event, and Danielle's like, we should do awards. It'd be so fun. And I'm like, I know, we've been talking about it for like a month. And then her and our event coordinator are going back and forth, and I'm just sitting there looking at them. And Danielle, she's like, you don't look excited. I'm like, I am. But for us to pull this off, we have to do this email has to go out. We have to make this. We have to make that. We have to do this. And I'm like,
because you're thinking about the work behind it, and I'm like, that's fun. Let's do it.
And I'm like, yeah. And then my mind is immediately going like, okay, how can we pull this off? And I just start.
You literally, as we were sitting there and I'm filming, all of a sudden, like, I swear, like 10 minutes later, you're like, how's this sound? I was like, you fucking nailed it. I was like, you're already done. You wrote the email. Why were you so why were you in your head about it, Ani? You got it done. You got it done.
That was not all of it, but it's true. I mean, within probably the next few hours, not only did we finish filming stuff for the academy, I wrote the email. I had a watermark done. I had a video showing how they could do it. I was like ready to send it out. Sent it out. One part was fucked up. Had to like fix it and like adjust something. Doesn't matter. But even like then, like it can be done quickly. But I feel like I always put myself in a position where I think through steps very quickly.
Yeah.
I don't let like big picture stuff overwhelm me. I'm just like, okay, well, pros and cons of everything we do.
You know what I like to do, and it's so funny because I feel like even for example, like where Garrett and I live right now, and I remember when we first moved to California, and I remember thinking like, oh my God, I love this neighborhood, or even just moving to California in general. Like we lived in Arizona, we lived in Utah, then we went to Arizona, and then we came to California, and California was like the dream place, right? And we were like,
yes.
And I wanted to move. Yeah, this is a crazy story. I wanted to move from Utah to California, and I looked at the price of just like renting a home at the time, and I was like, ooh, I can't do it. And we hadn't even like visited California and like looked into it. I just looked online and immediately like got fear-based and was like, we can't do it. And then a friend was like, you should move to Arizona. It's this happening place, and it's in Gilbert, and it's growing really fast, and you'd love it. And anyways, we ended up moving to Arizona for like a fraction of the price, and I literally felt so trapped. It was fun and it was a good experience, but I felt like I almost like sold out. You know what I mean? And as we lived in Arizona, we would drive to California because I like told Garrett, I was like, I want to live in California, but instead of like psyching myself out and looking at homes and being like, we can't do it, we literally would drive down like every 3 or 4 months because it wasn't that far of a drive. And then I slowly like when we went out there, I'm like, I'm just gonna I set something up with a realtor, and Garrett's like, why? Like we're just renters. Like at the time we had like no money, and he's like, we're just renters. Like we they don't show renters. I was like, they do.
Yes, they do.
I know, and I didn't know that. I just assumed they didn't. And I reached out and I was like, we're just looking to rent. This lady's like, yeah, I'll totally show you around.
Yeah.
I'm like, cool. So this lady shows us around, and I'm like, cool, thanks. We'll keep in touch. And she started emailing me things. So it was just like putting your foot in like that direction and allowing yourself to dream a little bit and visualize yourself in the atmosphere that you want to be in. And doing that over the next few years, finally, like our lease was up in Arizona, and I was like, cool, got us a house, babe. We literally moved to California. Our rent was like something like $2,500 in Arizona. We moved to California. It was like went from like $2,500 to $7,500. Like we tripled. And I was like, we're going to double down real quick. And I looked at Garrett and I was like, do we got this? Because I was even going over the numbers in my head, and there was like, yes, I could, help support this payment, and he could. I'm like, between the two of us, like, I know we can do it. Like, I know what we're making. I know we could do it, but we'd never like to take that kind of leap. We were like, it was just, we were mentally in our heads. And then when we kind of like look at what we're making, we're like, this isn't that much of a risk. And I remember my mom telling me, she's a real estate agent, and she's like, whatever your rent is, whatever your home payment is, it should never be more than 50% of your income. And I was like, babe, we're good. We got this. Like
50%? Gosh, that's high, isn't it?
I know you would think that, but that's what she told me. And
oh
I
my
was
God.
like, I know. So I was like, okay. But right? So then I was like,
I'm sitting here and I'm like, I could move into a real sweet house for that.
Like when she said that, I was like, oh, okay. And so then I was like, babe, we're fine. This is like less than 50% of what we're currently bringing in. It's just in our minds, we said like, we can't do this. We can't do this. And I was like, we can do this. And we lived in that house for a while, and we rented and that kind of thing. We moved to another house in Dana Point. And then I was at this place where I was like, so babe, we're going to have because we were starting to make money, and he wanted to get buy a Lamborghini, and I was like, I'll fucking murder you if you buy a Lamborghini. I was like, you buy me a goddamn house, and then you can go look at you want to live in your car? You want to live in your car?
I know how much that car is. It's a lot.
That was a rough year in our marriage. I was like, I swear to God, because to me, I was like, you're scared, and you're not like, we know we want to stay in California now. So again, I start looking into buying a home, and he's like, we can't buy a home. Our credit's fucked from all this like past shit we had. And I was like, But is our credit really fucked? And so I started reaching, like, because we had cleaned up our credit over the years, and I was like, I bet it's not that bad. So then again, I reach out to a realtor. I'm like, we want to buy a house. We want to do this. And next thing you know, Garrett's like, holy shit, we got approved for a loan, and we got this and this. And I was like, yeah. We make up these assumptions and these stories about like where we're at and who we are, but maybe we don't realize that just put your foot in the door and see what's possible. And in doing so, allowing yourself to dream a little bit bigger and then seeing what, like, it just literally, it's not like, oh, I put up a vision board and it manifests. No, like, no. Like, yeah, it's good to like visualize yourself, but it's like you have to take the required steps in order to get into the house or the city or the salon or wherever you want to be.
I mean, even now, I moved from Missouri, and I literally just sold my home there. It was 2,700 square feet. It was me, and it was like $1,500 a month. It's so cheap. It was so cheap. At the time, I'm like, yeah, I'm paying $1,500 a month. This is crazy. And then when I was like, I'm moving to California, and they were like, well, you have this apartment for 1,200 square feet, and that'll be 2,300. I was like, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I don't.
Right? Welcome to California.
I think you mixed your numbers around, and I was like blown away. But it's so funny because I could have moved inland. I can walk to the beach in 15 minutes. I live actually in a really nice place. I live in Dana Point. I could have gone inland. I could have got a bigger place. I could have probably had cheaper rent, but I was like, no, this is where I want to live. Like, this is the area. This is where I want to be. Like, let's make it work. And I have an apartment now that I love, but even now I'm like, okay.
See me just saying, I'm like, 50%. You're like, oh, shit.
And that's why even now I'm like, okay, I've lived here for a few years. I'm kind of like, not over it, but I love where I live. But even I was looking at houses last night, and I found one.
Because you need to take another scary leap. Like, you're at that point. And I think
that fucking terrifying, like, where your stomach hurts and, like, your throat sinks into your stomach, and you're like,
I can't do it.
Yes,
I can't do it.
It is. And
then you start saying stuff like, well, I don't need it. Just be happy with where you're at. Like, you live on the beach, Ani. Just be happy.
And see, my current rule with like moving is I love where I live. So if I'm not dying and obsessed over a home, like I'm not moving into something I kind of like. Right. But then I saw this fucking home that I'm like, I turned into that heart-eyed emoji, and now I literally emailed them this morning. I'm like, can I come look at this house? Like, I'm fucking dying over it.
Now you're already like, because you're like, okay.
Ooh, I saw myself by that little fireplace, and there's a little hot tub in the back, and there's grass for Ronald, and I'm like, oh, I'm like dying.
Where's it at? Is it close?
It's right in San Clemente, but it's like on the edge of San Clemente and Dana Point. It's
nice.
Right there. So when I'm like, that's right where I want to be. But it's so funny because even like fear gets us. Like, it got Garrett, and he's like he seems like one of the most fearless people on earth.
We literally had put down like 1.3 million on our home, and he was like, oh. and he was
I'm
like,
sweating.
We went to Cabo, and he was like, we got in this big fight, and I got so irritated because I was like, the old Garrett is coming out. I'm like, you already put the money down. Like, what the fuck are you, like, it was like this roughest Cabo trip I've ever been on. But in the end, he was like, thank you for kicking my ass once again. I was like, I just feel like you work so hard and you get so far, and the only thing that sucks us back is scarcity, is self-doubt and fear. Mm-hmm. And that's more dangerous than anything else. Like, it's just self-sabotaging. And so it's like, it's important to be aware of like the economy. It's aware of what's going on. But literally, if you feed into it too much, you kind of spiral the other direction.
By the way, now's a great time to buy a house because the economy's not doing great. Is this a bad time to say that? If you got some money, now's a real great time to invest in something. That's like a fucked up joke to make. But, and see, I also like to make light of situations. I'm like, what if I sit here and I'm like, do I drop clients? Do I up my prices? This is going to be terrible. Maybe I should buy 16 pounds of toilet paper. Maybe I shouldn't. Like, that doesn't help you.
Yeah.
You have to change your mind and how you think of things so it benefits you and doesn't literally hold you back.
Right.
Because I've seen so many artists, like even the girl that she's like, I have 27 NBR clients and I'm doing that 3 days a week, and has added other days because I still have 2 fucking days of clients. I'm like, why do you have 2 days of color clients?
Yeah.
Like, I'm so confused. Why do you have 2 days of color and cut clients? You're looking at this bigger
problem, and then you see the problem right in front of her. You're like, no, get rid of these clients. Like,
and it's fascinating because it's so easy when you're on the outside. Because I'm sure people would hear shit about my personal life and be like, bitch, here's your fucking problem. I'd be like, I'm sure it is. But when you're inside, you don't see it. Almost because everything is, it's like you're in a tornado and everything is swirling all at once. And it's like you can't like catch a scene fast enough to really see what it is. As opposed to on the outside, you're like, yeah, that's stupid. And that's a problem.
Don't you think you have to have like these real come to Jesus moments with yourself, though?
I love come to Jesus moments.
No, but like with yourself. Like,
yes.
You have to literally ask yourself, like, this sounds weird, but I vision like the other Danielle coming outside of my body and talking to myself.
You.
And just talking to me and being like, really, is this the best you can do? Are you being 100% honest with yourself? Are you being accountable to yourself? Is this your best work? Like, literally, and I'm like, I just kicked my own ass mentally. Like, you know what I mean? But I love...
I talk to myself more than I talk to other people.
But it's hard. I have to literally, like, emotionally detach. Like, and I'm very visual, so I visualize myself coming outside of my body and, like, talking to myself and being like, really? And I feel like when they say, like, we're our hardest critics, I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. I think that there's, like, this stigma that's like, oh, you're just critical of yourself. I'm like, no. I'm not, like, critical of myself. I just, like, expect a lot out of myself.
I always say I hold myself to the highest of standards, which also means I hold you to the highest of standards. You hold me to the highest of standards. We hold our trainers to the highest of standards. We hold our artists and like,
that's how you grow.
Absolutely. It can't be good enough is not good enough. And that's my biggest fucking pet peeve. So,
well, I'm going to share one last little story, and I know we're going to share it on another thing, but, like, I was just thinking, so I'm training for a bikini contest, which I'll have you know, I was like, oh, a bikini contest. Like, what, you just lean down a little bit and you throw on a sparkly bikini and you're just like, like... So that's cute. But I've always felt like I've been pretty athletic, so I was like, I'm going to try it. So I'm, like, training, and I'm doing really good, and, like, I was like, shit's harder than I thought, and I'm not even down to, like, the really hard part yet, you know? Mm-hmm. So anyways, long story short, I'm, like, I have to take this, what it's called an in-body test, where it, like, measures your body fat, your water intake, your muscle mass, all that, your weight, whatever. And my trainer has me take it, like, every couple weeks, and, like, literally, like, every couple weeks, I'm, like, showing improvement. She's like, I love you. Like, your body's just, like, I'm like, because I'm following you. I hired a nutritionist and I hired a trainer because obviously, like, I know some, but, like, you guys are the experts. So I'm going to hire myself some coaches to help me. So I'm, like, following it really good. But then I got a little cocky about it. I was like, oh, I got this. I'm, like, eating tacos at night.
You asshole.
I'm having a few cocktails here and there. Like, I'm just like, but I'm like, whatever. Like, I'm fine. 2 weeks goes by, nothing changes. I was like, I email both my coaches. I'm like, nothing changed. I'm panicking. And they're like, you're fine. Don't get in your head already. You're fine. And then I had, like, a come to Jesus moment with myself. I'm like, Danielle, was your workout and diet perfect the last 2 weeks? No, it was not. It was not. You told your trainers you weren't going to snack on little things. Did you? Yes, I did. I ate really good, but there was, like, these little things that I just, like, consistently kept doing. And I was like, what the fuck am I hiring a coach for if I'm not going to listen to and say, well, my body stopped responding? No. My body stopped responding because I stopped responding. So I think it's important, just going into, if you hire help, if you hire a coach, if you hire that, like, you have to be able to, like, really listen and focus on growing. If not, then you kind of stay stuck. And I always tell my students, I'm like, the best way you can tell if something is working is if you look at your work, if you look at your bank account 3 months, 6 months, 12 months down the road. If you can physically see improvement, then you know what you're doing is working. But then when you see people that literally, you're like, how come this student moved through how come their transformations, like, they, grew faster?
Yeah.
Because they were more disciplined, because they took feedback different, because they listened to the coaching. So results.
And not only that, but ego plays so much into that. Like, it's okay to admit you're not the best at something.
Right.
That's okay. Everybody fucks stuff up. So do Danielle and I. Right. So does Garrett. Like, no one is exempt from that. It's okay to say, I'm struggling. I'm not very good at this right now, but I want to be really fucking good. Well, then that requires work.
It requires work, and it requires submission, and it requires a come to Jesus with yourself.
So, guys, thanks for being here with us and listening to episode number 114.
Woo!
You can watch us on the dkwstyling.com website.
Okay, if you go to, I changed my blog to just, like, hair-related stuff. So I have, like, one hair blog post that I write. It's funny, I never really considered myself a writer, but I love telling stories. So I do write one blog post a week with hair stuff, and then we share the podcast there because we had too many fucking blogs everywhere. And I was like, why don't we just funnel it all into one thing? So it's dkwstyling.com.
See, that's what I said.
You were like, the DKW's styling.
Because I always want to be like, go to bigmoneystyling.com.
DKWstyling.com. You can also download the Big Money Stylist podcast on iTunes, and it will pop up every week for you. So thanks for listening.
Guys, stay safe, stay healthy, wash your fucking hands.
Germ-X away.